Welcome to the Tone Lounge Podcast, the definitive music industry and gear podcast with Jonathan Gilmet and Frank Fleckenstein.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Tone Lounge Podcast. This is episode number 22. We've made it that far.
Yep.
My name is Frank. I'm your host, and with me today, as always, His Royal Highness, the Duke of Voxington, aka Jonathan Gilmet from Canada.
From
Sitting
Canada in Belgium.
From Canada and Belgium. How are you doing today this morning?
I am doing very good, and I'm keeping busy, and I am just about to embark on a journey to go to Scotland, which should be fun. Yep.
Nice. Yeah. We talked a little bit about it beforehand. So Edinburgh, I've been to Edinburgh once, only for 2 days, on a sort of like off day on a tour I played, and it was the best off day ever because Edinburgh was just, it was breathtaking, lovely people, like really kind of like really relaxed. Something I didn't expect. But yeah, you're gonna have a lot of fun. I'm pretty sure.
Did you try the haggis?
Yes, I did. I actually did. Believe it or not.
You have to. You have to. That and the blood pudding.
Yes, 100%.
Yeah,
100%. So, I thought before we kind of continue from last week's conversation, we could jump into a couple of news items. If you're up for it.
It sounds interesting.
It sounds interesting. Okay, let me share my screen with you. Hold on a second. There we go. Can you see that?
Yes, I can.
Okay. I thought we could jump right into this. Was obviously something that made the news. I don't know when it was, like last week or something. Yeah, it was just a couple of days ago. So the original Tonex from IK Multimedia was kind of I would say a game changer in the sense of people who already loved the concept of like the profiling that Kemper did back then, and kind of tried to update it. Apparently, and that was the opinion of a lot of people that I talked to about it, they said this sounds even better, or that's even closer to the real thing. And now they came out with an even smaller, and according to that article, an even budget-friendlier pedal with AI machine modeling technology for hyper-realistic amp and effects tones. So this thing is essentially like it has the size of a mini pedal, which is pretty amazing, to be honest. And it comes with only a few controls. So it seems like, volume gain so these have double functions.
Okay.
I see a 3-band EQ, I see gate, compressor, reverb, and I see volume and gain. And there's this alt knob that gives you access to the upper or the lower row. I'm not sure. Which is nice. So, what does this thing bring on? Compact design, we've seen that. Customizable LED colors, make stacking multiple units or stereo rigs easy to operate. Studio grade EQ, compressor, noise gate. So essentially, like the feature pack that the bigger version has. Store up to 20 presets with over 200 premium tone models included. Explore and load many of the free. Okay. What else? TRS output, stereo, dual mono, or headphones. Nice. That seems like a very complete pack. And what else? Includes ToneX SE all-in-one player, modeler, and librarian, plus Amplitude 5 SE software. Yeah, that definitely made the rounds, and I didn't see a lot of videos around it, so it seems like the companies, and that's also some of the feedback that got to me last week, apparently the companies are not spreading out too wide. They're keeping it to a handful of videos from different YouTubers or influencers. They're keeping it more compact for that matter, but then they kind of promote those videos more intensively. So I haven't seen a shit ton of videos around it. I think I've seen 5 or 6.
Oh,
and
yeah. I'm gonna have to link you to some of the channels I'm subscribed to, because when this came out, I had, like, not BSing you, like maybe like 15, 20 videos that just popped up all at the same time, and within like a day or two, I ended up with like almost 30 freaking videos on the Tone X1, which I don't mind, because what's cool about this is that because there's so many people out there doing demos and stuff, if you don't like a certain player or you don't like their style or whatever, and there's some people that you much prefer, if they all end up having it, you're going to be able to get the answer you wanted from your favorite YouTubers. So I think there's like, in the first day, there were like really big channels and even some smaller channels who ended up having the Tone X. And one of my favorite videos that I've seen on this is a video from the guys over at, what's the name of their channel? It's the one where they do all Kemper stuff. Anyways, I forget the name. Yeah. It's all they do. So they do profiles and stuff. And they made a video where they showed where they were stacking more than one of them. Like they had like 2 to 3.
That's the
right.
One.
And they were doing like different things with them and showing like, you could have one that is your amplifier and the other ones take care of the effects.
Yeah.
And it was like, for 179 euros, that is brilliant, because you can have like this really small pedal board and control each things individually. You don't have to do any deep dive into menus and stuff. I was like, that is probably going to be the top selling point for this, is you could buy 2, you could buy 3 of them, and you have a complete board.
Yeah, that's what when I saw that video, that's what I thought. And I even went like, okay, essentially for, you just mentioned it. So this thing sells for 180 quid. It says it's going to ship mid-May, so that's around the corner as well. Yep. What I thought was like, you could actually have like 2 or 3 different rigs, so 2 or 3 different amplifiers, and put them into a small, like affordable loop switcher, and there you go. And you have like different amps and different effects, like accessible, and for a pretty nice price. I mean, that's like, if you compare it to what even the smaller version of the Kemper costs, this is like super affordable. And the form factor couldn't be better. It's just what else could you ask for?
Especially for traveling musicians, or let's say you're in Europe and you have to go to Asia for a gig, and you can't bring too much stuff with you. You have something like that. I mean, if let's say you only have one of them, right? You bring it over with you, it breaks down. You could always buy a second one as a backup, and you can buy a backup for your backup. I mean, it's just the possibilities here are ridiculous, and it's especially considering how many people own the Tone X and have made profiles for them. So if you go on the road and I don't know, yours gets stolen, it's broken, you can buy another one and just download the same profile you had before, and you're ready. You're pretty much ready to go. If you have something like the Kemper, and I mean, I love the Kemper. I think it's awesome, but it's so much, deep diving, going into the menus, and I hate doing it from the hub itself. I prefer having the software because it's a little more intuitive. And from what I can see, this one, I mean, you got like 6 knobs on this thing?
Yeah.
And that's it. I mean, it's pretty simple. And if you want to go for the gain, you just go press on Alt, and then you adjust your gain, and there you go. So I think it's brilliant. I don't know how it sounds because I have no experience whatsoever with any of the Tone X products. But if I were to buy one today, that's the one I would go for.
Yeah, 100%. The thing is that I'm super intrigued. I'm super intrigued about like trying this out at least. I have no regular use for a thing like this, because I have one or two amps, I have a couple of pedals, and I'm fine with that. But I could definitely see a use case for this, especially for bands who need to travel on a budget, like super compact, and they're playing straight into the board anyways. For them, this is like a no-brainer. Absolute. And if you're not in the need of like hundreds of millions of sounds, then you're absolutely good to go with this thing.
Absolutely. And I just kind of wonder how the tuner works, though. It probably has to do with the three knobs that we're seeing there that probably light up in different colors.
Yeah, most likely.
I don't know how it functions. I mean, it's not that big of a deal, but let's say you could do without a tuner and this works great. One less pedal to bring with you. Now, is it a buffered output on this thing? Because I didn't see that in the description.
Yeah, I'm trying to find where it is. Just a second.
Yeah, because since they don't have an XLR out, I'm kind of wondering about cable length. Like, let's say you have like your pedal board and you're going out to front of house. Just kind of wonder about like signal degradation.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I'm not sure, but
doesn't seem to be on there. Huh?
No, it doesn't. I mean, I found something. Smart tuner on board. That's what it says. Easy travel friendly with a. Well, yeah. It doesn't. I have not seen how it works, but regardless, if I would always prefer, and that's just me, and I know other people are less, anal about this, but I would always prefer like a proper tuner on my pedal board.
Yeah.
It's just out of convenience. Just makes more sense.
Especially if you're used to the same tuner and you've been playing that one and all your guitars are tuned with it and you're used to it. Makes sense. Like I have the Polytune and I've been playing that for like 2 years now. And whenever I get a new tuner and I try it out, I just hate it. I'm so used to the other one. This one here, sometimes they're really finicky. They can never seem to land on the proper tuning. So yeah, I hear you. If you're stuck with something where it's not what you're used to, and especially if you're really picky about tuning, you might not want to do this. But sometimes you're playing a gig where it's so freaking loud anyways. It's not going to make a heap of difference whether you're like spot on or just a few cents off or over.
Yes.
So maybe in a bind, you could use something like that.
Yeah, exactly. Here's another release that kind of came out of nowhere, at least for me. This thing just came around and was like, oh, okay. So Boutique Amp Distribution just recently announced a new module for the Synergy system, which is based on like the 90s dual rectifier sort of sound, which I think they kind of teased that at NAMM, and now that came. They also teased a Dr. Z module that everybody was anticipating because they were like, hey, you guys have enough high gain stuff, bring something for the rock, crunch guys.
The dad rock guys.
The dad rock guys, exactly. Well, they have a Dumble module, so there you go.
Yeah, makes sense.
And then suddenly they come around with the IRD. So after the IRX, which we both know that, they're coming out with on that same platform. They're coming out with the IRD, which is based on the Dirty Shirley / the Twin Sister designs, which is like sort of a more classy. So the IRX is for the guys who love the sort of like modified hot rodded plexi sort of tones up to extreme high gain with like really tight low end and stuff. And the IRD is essentially going more towards the sort of JTM 45 like classic British tones, but
Okay.
Same thing. So it's a tube preamp powered by two 12AX7s. Comes with the editor software, comes with all the direct out functionality and the IR functionality of the IRX. Comes with 13 free Friedman IRs and the ability to load your favorites. So you can also use third-party IRs and the stuff that you love and are used to. And then it has MIDI as well, which is great. It's gonna be 500. I think that's a little bit cheaper than the IRX. I think the IRX is like 560 or something.
Okay.
And instead of like the tight switch that the IRX has for like the tight low end stuff, this one comes with a 2-way bright switch and a 3-way structure switch, which is kind of handling the gain structure a little bit. So from I guess like from loose to tighter or like thicker.
Okay.
And so it seems like the platform itself, like this IRX platform, was successful enough for them to like continue on that. And it kind of goes into the same direction as the stuff with the Tonex. It's all about portability. It's all about the compact rig for people who need to travel light. And we've talked numerous times about how we think this is going to be the future. Unless of course you can afford somehow to bring your half stack or even full stacks. I don't know anyone personally who can still.
No, I mean, I love having an amp behind me, but if we're to be honest, controlling that, especially like if you're going to be playing with a band and you're going on tour, controlling the volume from venue to venue, trying to get great tone with each place you're going, it's a challenge because you're at the mercy of the acoustics of the place you're playing in, the electricity that's in there. So sometimes you get like frickin' noises that come out. And then like the engineer that's taking care of mixing your band, you don't know who they are. They don't know your band. They don't care sometimes. The person's just there to do a job. They're not there to make you sound great. So when you get there with a really loud amp, most of the time, we all know this, 100% of us have experienced this. Can you turn down? Can you turn down? And you seem to be turning down throughout sound check every fucking time. And then you're like, I can't hear myself anymore, right?
Yeah, that's true.
So the convenience of something like this, where you're going direct, you have more control over the direct sound going to the front of house. You're not dealing with the acoustics in the room. You're not dealing with the same parameters as usual. So you have a little more control. And if you're playing with in-ears, then you don't have to worry about your stage volume and feedback and all this shit, right? Yeah. So I think it makes sense that we're going in this direction. And you have experience with the IRX, right?
Yes. Yeah, I actually still have that here. I plan to do another video with it around third-party IRs because this thing sounds great and the IRs are they definitely sound great. But I think you can, if you want to like get the full potential out of it, like looking at maybe different IRs that suit you better, or like an IR, because it's essentially the cabinet sort of portion of the whole rig, it can change the sound drastically.
Yep.
So I think if you want to get like the most out of this thing, IRs are the way to go. And I know that there's a shit ton of IRs out there, but yeah, I've looked at a lot of them and picked out like my favorite 5 for like certain certain types of tones. And that's going to be like the topic of that video. And as far as the sound of the IR, it sounds great. It sounds like a Friedman amp, really. It sounds like a Friedman amp, but in this like small format, which is great. I absolutely love it, and I love that they go into this direction, and they kind of please a different type of like clientele, simply because the IRX is not for everyone, and the guys who are more into these like classic like JDM 45 circuit sounds, like classic British tones, they're gonna like the IRD better. That's okay. That's for sure.
Very interesting.
Yeah, 100%. This is a little side note. We've talked about the Silver Sky a couple of times, and now they've announced that a left-handed version is actually coming, because when the Silver Sky came out, the first thing that people said, well, bring out an SE version as well. Because obviously the Silver Sky was like, what, 2,500 or something, or like 2.5K plus, depending on the color. Yeah. Which is not the most accessible guitar for a lot of people. So that was the first thing. And then when they actually said, yeah, we have the SE version coming out, people were saying that, well, then also bring a left hand, because complete the whole thing. And apparently I don't see for when. Okay, so according to a post from PRS on their Instagram, the wildly popular John Mayer Silver Sky is getting a left-handed iteration sometime this fall, so in fall. While pre-orders haven't surfaced just yet, not quite, I've seen that pre-orders have opened on Andertons. So Andertons has already kind of put all that stuff in their online shop, and you can pre-order the guitar.
Wow. Okay.
You can grab one of the many right-handed models right here. Okay, that's obviously an ad. This workhorse guitar launched in 2008 in collaboration with John Mayer. Yeah, okay, we know that. The SE Silver Sky Lefty Rosewood comes in Moon White, Piano Black, Storm Blue, or Storm Gray, while the SE Silver Sky Maple is offered in Overland Gray, Nylon Blue, and Summit Purple. Some of those names, man.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. They sound exotic.
They sound exotic. But it's great. It's great that they bring out the left-hand version. This is obviously, it's nice for the people who are left-handed. And I know that when I started out working in retail, and we had, so that was some kind of advice that one of the guys who I was working with, he was a left-handed, he was writing with his left hand, he was left-handed too, but he learned to play the guitar right-handed, because he says the only difference is once you're getting like comfortable with the sort of weird position, like posture you're taking, because you used to do everything with the left hand, so you were like, okay, so I have to play with the left hand. He says once you kind of get over that barrier of getting used to the awkward position, the hand you need to train more as far as coordination goes is the right hand, obviously, because your left hand is already better at coordination. And he says every time somebody comes in and says he's left-handed, he wants a left-hand guitar, and he didn't play an instrument at all before, I recommend to immediately learn right-handed. I did it. It turned out great for me, and it actually has some advantages as far as like your fingering hand goes. And then you have to obviously, try a little bit harder to get the right hand going. But that's the advice that he gave me. And I had a couple of people coming into the store and asking me about this. And they started out also right-handed, although they were left-handed and doing a lot of things with the left hand. And they turned out great as well. They still, up to this day, play right-handed guitar. So I'm not sure how high the amount of people playing left-handed is. Actually, it would be interesting to know that. Like how high the percentage of left-handed players is.
I know that left-handed players are really underserved when it comes to guitars.
Yeah, totally.
Whether they're guitarist or bassist, there's not much choice, and when there is, they pay more than we do for the same instrument just because it's left-handed.
Yeah.
Which is really stupid. And I've heard of a company that actually makes like left-handed instruments only. But if there's only like one or two, that's not enough, because then you're still paying a premium just to get that from them, because they're the only game in town kind of thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, I can see why someone would say, I recommend you learn right-handed, but I've seen, and you've probably seen this too, left-handed players who use the right hand guitar and they just flip it the other way with the strings the same way we have it on the right. And there's like Eric Gales that does this, and there's a few other players, and it just blows my mind.
Yeah.
That instead of like flipping the strings over, they keep it right-handed. They just flip the guitar over. So when they are on the upper part where we would have the lower strings, they have the higher strings.
Yeah.
So the fingering is all fucked up, and I'm looking at it, and I'm like, it's like, if I want to learn from you, I have no clue where to start, because the strings are not even in the same place.
But that proves my point. That proves my point. He once said in an interview, and if you haven't heard Eric Gale, everybody who's watching or listening, if you haven't heard Eric Gales playing, go to YouTube, go to Eric Gales, search for Eric Gales. This guy is like an absolute killer player.
It's phenomenal.
Absolutely phenomenal. And then you look at how he plays, and then they asked him once, he was like, well, it's how I learned to play guitar. The guitar that was floating around my house, I guess it was his brother's guitar, I'm not sure. It's just the way how he learned it, and he stuck with it, which proves my point as like, if you haven't ever played an instrument and you are used to writing with the left hand and like being stronger coordination wise with the left hand, but you want to start playing an instrument like the guitar, for example, learn right hand. It's going to feel weird in the beginning, but break through those barriers, and you're going to have a lot less trouble afterwards. You're not going to be disadvantaged by the market who doesn't serve left-handed players enough.
Exactly.
You're going to have a much easier life, and you're going to have more access to instruments simply because there's more variety for right-handed players out there. Is it cool? No, it's not cool. Is it a fact? Yes. It is obviously one of the aspects of this market, because production needs to be efficient, and then changing your production to kind of flip a design the other way around isn't efficient, and efficiency, it's what it's all about, apparently. So,
but I have an idea though.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to start a business where I only make left-handed products. So I'm going to have left-handed guitar picks, left-handed pedals, all right, left-handed guitar cables.
Do you
left-handed straps?
Yeah, left-hand. There is
just useless shit. People are going to be like, dumbass, it's the same thing as the right-handed stuff. Like, there's no left or right. No. Left-handed pedals, you have to try it. Instead of dialing clockwise, you're dialing counterclockwise.
The first time I knew the thing was ridiculous when the first time I heard about a left-handed piano.
Oh, jeez.
There's actually left-handed pianos out there, and that has to be like a major, like, if I mean, I know that pianos are not something that are built like in bulk masses. But that has to be like a bummer when, you just built 10 pianos, and then your boss comes around and is like, all right, today we're going to do 2 left-handed. And you're like, oh, for fuck's sake. everything just turned around.
Yeah, and imagine trying to sell that after, right? It's like, oh, my father passed away. We don't play any instruments. We have a left-handed piano for sale. Good luck.
Good luck selling that and getting some money for it. Here's something that I came across yesterday, and I thought this is something we definitely need to talk about. So, Guitar Center's CEO wants to do away with cheap guitars. The title alone is like is like super interesting. I'm going to read a little bit out of that article. So this is a Gear Gods article, and it says, "Did you know that you're not a serious musician if you're not dropping loads of money on gear? Question mark. Because that's what Guitar Center CEO Gabe Del Porto noted is insinuating. In a recent interview with Music Inc. magazine, Del Porto noted the companies need to evolve and execute better." That's a very general term. Needed to evolve and execute better. I mean, that can mean everything. By apparently getting rid of lower end gear. Somewhere along the way, we forgot who our core customer was. Seth Del Porto states, "Our core customer is the serious musician, the gigging artist, or passionate player where music is a big part of their identity. Over the years, we've evolved significantly into serving the beginner and entry-level customer, which is great. But if you walk through a GC store, you're going to see an awful lot of $300 guitars. We have some premium product, but we don't have enough. And it's very hard to experience our premium product because we have the best guitars locked in the top row where you can't easily get to them. So if I'm a serious musician and I walk into a Guitar Center, it doesn't feel like the right place for me anymore."
I mean, I don't disagree with anything this person has said at all.
Yeah. And then, imagine being so out of touch with the music world that you equate expensive gear with being serious. There's nothing wrong with $300 guitars. If that's what you can afford and you're going to play the shit out of it and tour or sit around the house and enjoy playing guitar, then buy a $300 guitar and be a, in quotes, serious musician. Rage Against the Machine. Oh, here we go. Rage Against the Machine guitarist Tom Morello took issue with Porto's comment as well, saying on Twitter, "Rage Against the Machine won our first Grammy for Tire Me, a song on which I played guitar costing $40 Canadian. Though admittedly, I've never really considered myself a serious musician." So get out there, buy what you can afford and take music seriously.
I'm going to play devil's advocate to this because I think the first line kind of says the whole tone for the whole article. It's insinuating. There's a difference between you interpreting someone saying something and someone flat out saying, like verbatim, "I think $300 guitars are shit. We should do away with them," which is not what he's saying. You've worked retail. I know people who worked retail, and the truth is that what you make in terms of markup on a $300 kit is substantially more than selling a Gibson Les Paul. So if you're working on commission in a music store and you have the choice between selling, let's say, a $10,000 Gibson Les Paul on the wall, maybe you make like 100, maybe 200 in your pockets from that, where the $300 kit over there, you might be making like 60% of the sale or whatever, right? So I'm just throwing numbers out there. They're not accurate, but I'm just trying to give the sense that there's the high-end gear, the markup that you make, like what comes back into the music store's pocket after sale, and then paying their employee is much lower on the serious gear as opposed to the beginner stuff. Because the beginner stuff is super affordable for them. They buy it in bulk. So we have the same thing with Long and McQuaid in Canada, which is kind of like Guitar Center.
Yeah.
You walk in there, and depending on the size of the music store, if it's in a small town, you walk in there and it caters to beginners and like intermediate level players. So if you're looking for a Gibson SG, they probably don't have it there. You're going to have to travel to the next town over. So that is a fact. I mean, there's a lot of like beginner stuff because that's where a lot of the money is made by those companies. Is he wrong in saying that they should have more? Well, let's say, I don't know, you have someone like Joe Bonamassa that comes into your town for a gig, and let's say there's 100,000 people in your town. You have a shitty, small little Guitar Center, and all they have is beginner gear. If he's walking in there and he needs something serious because he can't get his guitars on time, well, he's shit out of luck with that store, and they're not going to sell him a guitar. They're not going to rent him a guitar because they don't have anything close to the caliber of what he needs for that gig. And I think that's what I'm interpreting from what he's saying, and I don't disagree with him. There should be, in those kinds of store, more stuff. So even the beginner that starts off on a $300 guitar, eventually they might want to graduate to something better. If you don't have that in your store, they're going to have to shop it online.
I am okay. In regards to if we dissect what he's saying, and if we dissect some of the statements here, they want to evolve and execute better. First of all, if you want to evolve and execute better, maybe you should make more money that you have that you owe to people, because as far as I'm aware, Guitar Center still is in a huge debt. So I think there was 1 year, not sure, slightly before or during the pandemic, where they were like, we had a record year. We made more revenue than ever before. And then you look at the other side on the deficit, it's like the money they owe. It's like, that's roughly the same. So congratulations. If you want more premium instruments in your store, sure, nothing is holding you back from it, just like, create a bigger space for premium instruments. That there might be some limitations depending on, you just brought the argument with, like, if you're in a small town, obviously the size of the store is going to be smaller. So if it's different if you go to Guitar Center, Hollywood, than going to Guitar Center in some small town somewhere in, Minnesota, probably.
Yeah.
And also the company has reduced the amount of stores all over the country. So it's not like they have the same amount that they had like 10 years ago. And if you wanted to, increase that space for premium instruments, nothing's holding you back. Sure. But what I feel is kind of missing here is the CEO of Guitar Center apparently is kind of missing what the current market situation looks like and what the current economic situation looks like. He's when he's saying that we've forgotten who our core customer is, the serious musician, the gigging artist, or the passionate player. He's saying that's what he thinks their audience looks like. And I don't think that's correct. I don't think that is actually the case. I think he's completely misreading how people spend their money in this industry, because the gigging musician, the gigging artist, usually buys equipment, buys gear that is working for him for a long time, and he's not going to go every year and buy a new instrument. He has maybe an array of 2 or 3 instruments that are super reliable and that hold up even on tough tours. At least if I was a gigging musician, that's, and I know examples from people that I know that are gigging a shit ton, and they're having a couple of instruments that, and they don't change these instruments. I've seen them play the same instruments for years because they're reliable. It's exactly the sound they want, they need, and they're not walking into a Guitar Center one time a year to buy a new instrument. Who is? It's the same thing with cars, Car companies bring out new models of their cars every fucking year. Why? Because there's like something completely new about this car? No, not at all. Well, if it's this car is more efficient than the last one that we did last year. Oh, by how much? Like, it's using 0.2 liters less. Oh, great. Yeah, I'm going to stick with my old one. Why would I buy a new car? It's like...
You're bringing up a really interesting point there with the car that I think we can apply to the guitar industry. So, like I said, like I'm reading what he's saying, and I don't disagree with him. Your point, I also agree with that. Once you have a great guitar, you don't really feel a need to keep buying more. You might want to buy different, but you don't actually need to buy another guitar. If you do so, it's just because you want to have some diversity. But if we take the concept of a car is fucking expensive on every regard, whether you get it fixed, you put some gas in it, or, you know, just traveling around, whatever. A car is expensive. As such, if you're on a limited budget, you don't tend to neglect your vehicle. And when you have a great guitar or even a cheap guitar, you tend not to want to neglect it, because if it's broken, you have to get it fixed. That costs money. So musicians want to have reliable instruments that can, you know, withstand the test of time.
Yeah.
But the truth is that we part with our instrument so fucking easily these days, right? We swap, we sell, all this stuff. I'm pretty sure if we were to look at the guitars being made today, like I'm talking like the Fenders and all this stuff, I'm not talking like super boutique guitars, but like more modern instruments, pretty sure if we looked at them 50 years from now, I'm not sure they would be in the exact pristine condition and still have the same playability as, let's say, the guitar from the 50s. Because I think the company's clued in that they are putting out a lot of instruments, but people don't keep playing them for 50 years. They sell them and it goes to someone else and then someone else. So they're not going on tour. They're not being used by professionals day in and day out. Like you were saying earlier, you know, if you have the one great guitar, you're just going to play the shit out of it, right? But we don't do that anymore. It's like, oh, I have this guitar. It's kind of cool, but I wish it was purple. So you sell it and then you buy the purple one. Then you get the purple one. You play it for 5 years and then you get rid of it because now you want a Les Paul. So we swap our shit so often now that we have no clue if that $10,000 guitar is really going to withstand like 70 years of abuse by professional musician hand to hand. And even the amps we have, you know, it's like they're not, some of them, you might be able to go on tour for 3 months, but can you go on tour with it for 3 years? I have my doubts.
Someone who does tour, who doesn't gig, but I'm super serious about, you know, spending the most time of most of my time with an instrument, playing, getting better. Maybe I'm just recording at home, you know, and I'm uploading shit to, you know, SoundCloud. Is SoundCloud even a thing?
I think it still is.
Yeah, it's still a thing. It's still a thing. Maybe I'm just doing that, and you know that could be considered someone who's serious, you know, about being a musician. And then the other thing, I'm gonna bring the counter argument is like, if I would be a serious musician in the definition that he's like taking, someone who's gigging, someone who's passionate about music or something, I wouldn't walk into a fucking Guitar Center in the first place. And that's not to discredit Guitar Center, because these guys have been around for a long time and people still give them a lot of credit. But I see more discredit out there from people walking into Guitar Centers than I see credit. A, and B, as a serious musician, I'm always looking for something special, and I would find something special maybe with a small builder, or maybe with a store that only, you know, has inventory that's like sort of stands out, or maybe I'm looking for some vintage stuff. And I know that some Guitar Centers also have like a vintage corner, but most of that stuff is heavily overpriced. I've been to Guitar Center in Hollywood once, and man, some of those prices were like through the roof. Absolutely. Yeah. So there is some stuff in there that I partially agree with. You know, if you want to create a more equal experience for everyone, that includes the guy who's looking for an entry-level guitar or for a mid-level guitar, but also includes the guy that, you know, is looking for like higher-end stuff, insinuating that the core customer is the serious musician, the gigging artist, blah, 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 blah. And and also like including the passionate player where music is a big part of their identity. That also could apply to everyone.
It can. I think that maybe we, the players, have different definitions than, let's say, a CEO of a company does. So if it's just semantics with the words here, maybe like he's speaking in a way that is going to piss off people who are looking at it as like, financially, I'm a serious player, but I can't afford an expensive guitar. So why the fuck would you sell me a guitar? But he's talking about like $300 guitars. And he's most likely referencing like the cheaper shit that they sell. Because I mean, you could buy a Squier, just the Squier itself for $300, or you could buy a kit with a really cheap Squier, the strap, the guitar cable, the amp, the tuner, and all that for $300. And I think that the point you brought up that I think is really interesting is that if they think that their core audience is the serious player, maybe he meant the more experienced player, someone who's been playing more than a year, someone who's starting to know what they want. Like if that's what he meant, and I don't want to put words in his mouth because I don't know, but if that's what he meant, that might make sense. I mean, if you walk into a music store, depending if you've been playing for 2-3 years or more, that might be considered a more experienced musician, because some people, they make demos at home. Some people play 1 gig a year. Some people play 1 gig every week. There's different levels of experience. But if they say professional, we have the tendency to think of, studio musicians, guys in Hollywood and people in Nashville who do this day in and day out, and they're like world renowned. Now, if that's what he means, then I think, I call him out on his shit if that's what he thinks, that it's all like these top players who regularly go in there and buy the stuff. But if he just meant like average everyday musicians who know enough about gear and can grab an instrument and play it pretty decently compared to, let's say, someone who's been playing for 3 months. So the wording, that's why I find these kind of articles sometimes hard to take seriously, because shit can be spun in a way that makes someone look bad. And especially if you consider like the hate that there is now for certain stores or certain people, like certain CEOs, like the CEO from Gibson or whatever. And we have a tendency sometimes to get pissed off and jump to conclusions too fast. So if he just means that in his store, he wants to have like 10K guitars only, fuck it, dude. Have fun, but if your store dies, that's on you. It's like, I'm not going to lose sleep over that decision. If he only wanted to sell $300 guitars, he can do whatever the fuck he wants. But at the end of the day, I think it's interesting to see how these CEOs from these different companies want to adapt to the market in how they see the market versus how we respond to how they see the market. I think that's really interesting because, like you said, now we're more budget conscious. There seems to be a recession coming in somewhere at some point. We're not all fucking rich. We're not all like dentists and lawyers and notaries and stuff. We don't have all this disposable income where we can just like fork out $6,000 on a guitar anymore. Most of my guitars are cheap fucking instruments. Everything that you see behind me, I bought used for the best price I could like get away with. And I can't walk into a Guitar Center, a Long and McQuaid or Thoman's or whatever, and buy a brand new amp for $7K. I can't do that. I can't even put $800 on a fucking amp. So
what I see,
it's the market we're in.
What I see here is I think there is a fear of losing out business wise. I think that's what's happening here, because if we look at the market and how retailers have set themselves up in the past, let's say 10 years, you have this like standard type of reseller that does everything the market does. Line 6 is coming out with a new product, they stock the new product. Fender has a new line of Mexican-made guitars, they stock the stuff. Nothing special. You go in there, it's like exactly what you would expect from a standard sort of retailer.
Yeah.
Then you have the retailer that is more selective about the stuff they take in, because they look at, okay, does this work for our audience, for our client base? Do they actually appreciate us stocking all these things, and are they then afterwards like inclined to make a purchase? So they're more selective about the inventory, and usually those stores are doing much better these days than the store that does all the standard stuff that the market sort of goes to, dictates or whatever, including some of those then like stores or more selective inventory stores then have some additional funds available to actually focus on used inventory. So they bring in used inventory, which has a few like really good benefits. You usually have a better margin on used inventory, number one. And number two, if you do a well enough job, you won't have to, because at least in Europe, it's like for a used item, if you are a commercial seller, you have to hand out a year of warranty. So, and that's something that a lot of people are kind of struggling with. They're like, it's a used item. I don't have any support from the manufacturer. I don't want to deal with warranty issues. If you do a good enough job in sourcing and sourcing the inventory and making sure that it's, you won't have any issues, after the year is gone, it's not going to be an issue anymore. And also, you don't have the comparability issue with you, because someone is, you can't buy that new anymore, so you can't compare pricing.
Yeah.
So it's not like, it's not like you can go like, oh, okay, so the standard Fender Strat costs XYZ at this retailer, and now I have to, in order to compete. So the whole competition thing is less of an issue. And then we have a third type of retailer who just specialized. They specialized, and that's the thing. You can go wide and have like lots of shit and you cover everything you can possibly cover, or you can go more narrow, but you can go deeper. So that's why we saw retailers with a physical store, just online retailers, who've purely focused on effects, pedals and effects. And then there are some who just focus on vintage guitars or used instruments or just the high-end stuff, just the high-end stuff from like smaller builders and luthiers and whatnot. And coming to my point, what I kind of feel like look at is like, I think Guitar Center is kind of like afraid that they kind of want to compete with all of these. I mean, they compete with the first category because they do everything that the market sort of dictates.
Yeah,
they kind of also compete with the second category because they are incorporating used. So they have used inventory. You can buy used stuff at guitar centers as well, and they're even selling some of that stuff online. But then again, they're not very selective, in my opinion, about the stuff they bring in. They try to cover all bases.
Yeah,
but they're not able.
I'll put a little asterisk. A lot of what they sell used is the shit they sold new a few years ago.
Yeah,
so it comes back to them.
Yeah.
So it's they're not getting like the 54 Strats or the 59 Les Pauls. That's not what they're getting. They're getting what they sold that kid like 2 years ago, and now that kid wants to upgrade to a new guitar, so they're bringing back their old guitar and they're reselling it again. Now they make a markup because now they can tell that kid, you know what? Yeah, you bought $500 for this guitar, brand new, but I mean, we got like 15 of them all over on the wall, so the best I can do is $200, right?
Exactly.
That's what they do.
So, and that's the thing, and they are, when it comes to the third category, some of these stores, the ones that specialized, some of them are doing really well, and they're making lots of money because, this industry, although it's an international, like worldwide industry, is a very small industry, and word gets around very quick. So if you have someone who specializes in vintage guitars, we have Guitar Point in Germany. They're sitting in Frankfurt. They are so good at sourcing vintage guitars and vintage amps and vintage instruments that some of that stuff doesn't even make it to the website, because they're using social media and it's like, we're just unpacking like these 3 Les Pauls that we bought, and bam, poof, immediately they receive emails and messages. I'm interested. And they have people coming. And since they're located in Frankfurt, I've heard stories of like some guy from Japan flying into Frankfurt just to buy the instrument,
Wow.
Because these guys like really created a reputation for themselves. And there are other guys out there who created a reputation for having like high-end stuff from builders and custom shop guitars and whatnot. And these guys are doing really well. And I think like Guitar Center is not able to compete with these guys, but they kind of want to, And I think that's where all of this is coming from. It's just like, we're trying to serve a lot of people, but we can't serve them all. So this might just be some form of like, cheap in the sense of how much it costs marketing, because it happened during an interview with Music Inc. magazine. And, that's a good way to, shoot out a couple of statements. I think that's what that is.
Yeah, probably. And the concept of being the only game in town, because we've talked about like business models before, and I think the Guitar Center, the Long McQuaid's, and all these bigger stores, they used to be the biggest game ever, right?
Yeah.
So before that, you had like brick and mortar, like mom and pop shops, and that was fine. Eventually, these bigger centers came along, and they started to put those smaller businesses out of business because they had way more stuff on hand. But we're talking like pre-internet. So that's like when dinosaurs roamed the earth and, musicians were playing with congos and stuff. So just for any younger audience who doesn't remember the not having internet, that's what that means. Yeah. So now that the internet is there, those stores, they're not the only game in town, because now you don't just have your fucking town anymore. You have the entire planet. You can order from anywhere. So that means that locally, that little mom and pop shop, they can sell online too, but they're not going to sell you like a Squire or whatever. They have, maybe a 66 fucking Gibson whatever in the back there, and someone from another country is like, how much is shipping? Cool, okay, send it over to me. Now they're back in the game because they're not just stuck to their locality. Now they have the same access as Guitar Center or any of these other stores, but because they've specialized and they've stuck to their guns, now they are different than the big stores. So the big stores, they just like had all this like easy to consume, like great markup and all this stuff, while the other store over there, they're selling like old Vox amps, old Fenders, stuff like that, which your Guitar Center might not have or might not get in general because they don't give a good price to someone coming into their store. Or perhaps the guy with like a 54 Strat comes into Guitar Center, asks them, how much are you going to give for this guitar in a trade for something in your store? Well, there's got to be something in the store for that person to want to begin with. That person with that 54 Strat has been online, has checked out the prices that these go for, knows what to expect. And if they're going for the, Guitar Center, they put that on the counter. Like, how much are you going to give me? They're not going to give them what it sells for on Reverb. And in terms of trade in the store, they're going to be like, Christ, we got nothing that we can give you, and you're going to cost us too much money. So no, Guitar Center may not get that guitar. So if you go a few blocks down to that mom and pop shop, well, they might have a really old amp or a really old guitar that you just straight swap or swap with, money back either way. And there you go. You're back in business, which you can't do with these fucking stores. I walked into a Long & McQuaid once, and this, I'm not shitting you. I walk in there with a G&L bass, an L2500. It's like one of those 5-string. It almost looks like a Stingray. Beautiful fucking bass. I walk in, I put it on the counter, and there was something I wanted, and I wasn't playing the bass too much. They wouldn't even take it. They're like, nah, we don't have much use for it. I'm like, what? He goes, maybe, I don't even tell you how much we can give you. I would insult you. I'm like, okay, cool. Fucking close it. Walked out of the store. Haven't been back since. Like, you dumb motherfuckers. We're talking about a made in America, G&L. Great fucking bass. Everything is spick and span. They wouldn't even consider a trade or, credit in their store. Nothing. They're like, nah, we don't sell them. So, yeah. But when I put it for sale, though, I had a bunch of offers. So see, that's the disconnect between some of those bigger companies is that they're always looking at their bottom dollar. They're not thinking, like, if I make business with this person, they're probably going to come back into my store. But if I piss them off, they're going to walk out and I just lost business, especially if you take someone like me who I walk in there, I take my time, I walk in there, put the instrument there, and you're looking at me and you're telling me basically I just put hot turd on your counter. That's what you're saying to me, right? It's like, fuck off, man.
But that the same thing might not. You've made a great point there. The same thing might apply to the person who comes into the store and looking for a $300 guitar, because that guy, if he walks into, let's take Guitar Center as an example, because we've talked about Guitar Center. Let's say he walks into a Guitar Center, and I've heard horrific stories about how Guitar Center employees are kind of set up as far as like treating their customers. And that might not all be true, and there might all be isolated cases. And I am aware that there are a lot of Guitar Center employees around the US. So, but let's say somebody walks into Guitar Center and is looking for an entry-level guitar up to $300, and he walks in there and he comes out with instruments and with a great experience, that they kind of found the instrument that he was like, and he likes it so much, and he's playing his ass off. And then in 2 or 3 years' time, it's time to upgrade, and he remembers that he had a great experience. He's going to come back and he's going to maybe do the big purchase, and that's the other thing that, you also have to take into consideration. The guy who is not yet a serious musician, in quotes, but wants to become one, he's going to be the serious musician in a few years' time. So you need to like nurture the next generation, which is something that Fender is trying to do. It's like Fender is also seeing that this industry goes in like sort of cycles, whereas like every like 7, 8, 9 years, you have like a big wave of people starting the electric guitar. And they were like, okay, we need to kind of make sure that we reduce the intervals, the time between these cycles. And that's why they've launched the Fender Play program, to make it easier for people to learn, to motivate more people to play an instrument, to pick up a guitar. They would like kind of trying to create the next generation, and then the even have the generation bigger than the last one and whatnot. So that's something you need to take into account as well.
Yeah. It's one of those markets that's so fucking different from everything else when you consider it, because let's say I have a store where I sell food. I don't need to foster you to eat. You're going to fucking eat regardless, right? If I want to sell toilet paper, people need to wipe their ass all the fucking time. There's no like coddling and, taking like, start off with this toilet paper and then eventually I'm going to make you into a professional ass wiper. It doesn't work that way. But with guitar, it's such a unique market. It's such a niche market that if you can look at selling gear to the same person for their whole career, because that's really the purpose of the music store. It's like, I'm going to sell you guitar strings, I'm going to sell you guitar picks, straps, drumsticks, whatever the hell you need. I got you covered on the basics. That's the stuff you come in for. I got you. But for the guitars, that's a bigger investment. So let's say your attitude is, I'm going to sell this kid a $300 kit. It's going to be set up poorly. I'm not going to fucking help him out whatsoever. That kid's going to fail. He's going to sell that guitar or even give it away, and that's it. You lost that side of like having someone that's committed to your music store, because you did nothing for them except sell them something that you made a lot of fucking money on. You know, it's like you maybe paid $60 for the whole kit and you're selling it for $300. But let's say the same kid, you change the parameters of this scenario. You have a kid walking into a store, has never played guitar, and your sales rep is on the floor with that kid showing him a $300 guitar as opposed to a $300 kit. And the sales rep says, look, you should get this guitar and I'm going to rent you an amplifier. It's $20 a month. And if you want, we have a music teacher here, and great. Like if you want to start half hour, maybe you want an hour. So all of a sudden your store is taking that kid in, offering them the option to rent the gear before buying it, having the guitar lessons. And if that kid ends up really liking the guitar or wants to switch to another instrument, that kid's going to become a customer, is going to love your store, and you've taken care of them. And as they grow older, you're going to have new sales rep coming in, new managers coming in, and they're always going to foster these people. That should be the mindset of music stores. But there's some people that they're only there for their bottom dollar, right? They just want to make profit. And that's why those fucking CEOs at the top, oftentimes, they're disconnected from reality. They don't think about that. It's like, yeah, you do need the $300 guitar for sure, and you need the higher end stuff if someone wants it. But how about all the stuff in between? If the kid comes back with the $300 guitar, says, I've outgrown this. What do you have for me? I can only give you $50 for the guitar. What? You sold it to me for $300. Yeah, but like I said earlier, like we got 30 of them on that wall. Fuck, now you just pissed off that kid, and that kid might not come back. So that idea of fostering someone through their journey as a musician is going to make you way more fucking money than just that quick sale.
Yeah, 100%. And I've experienced numerous examples of people that I kind of consulted, into buying certain gear, and they were always happy and came back for everything else that they needed, additionally. And that's when I noticed, okay, it's making a difference. If you really take good care about what somebody's looking for, then you're making a difference in that person's life in the end. Because if somebody's dedicated to make music and it's part of their life, and you made their journey easier and more enjoyable, then they're gonna come back to you. It's very simple. It's very simple. And sadly, a lot of these stores are dying out because the owners are retiring and there's no one taking over the store. There's also a huge lack. There's a huge lack of fresh personnel. What it's like to work in a store. It's not you're not going to work in a store and become a rock star, or and you're not going to earn shit tons of money, because it's a sales job in the end.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's lots of issues around that as well.
If I may, there's one exception that I think we should address, because someone's going to point it out. One of the rare companies that is huge but really helps out their customers is Sweetwater. So people make memes about their Sweetwater rep all the time. Like, the guy checks in on them and is like, hey, are you good? Like, did you like that pedal I suggested? And people are like, man, it's like, you got the funeral meme with the guy like that comes over, like your sales rep comes over to your funeral and all this stuff. I'm like, holy shit, dude. It's like Sweetwater really nailed that concept of having your sales rep. It's like the first time you deal with them, that's the person you have, and that person checks up on you, makes sure that you're satisfied with what you have. And I mean, Sweetwater is huge. They might not be as big as Guitar Center in a sense, where they have way more stores throughout the U.S.
But in sheer numbers, they are.
Yeah.
They're number
exactly.
2 in the world. They're the number 2 in the world right now. Thoman's number 1, and Sweetwater's number 2. And these two operations, operations are very alike in terms of, you know, how well they've structured their customer service and their service overall.
Yeah, and the other part of fostering your audience is both Thomann and Sweetwater have YouTube channels where if you go on there, they show you the products. They give you even tutorials sometimes on how to use certain like compressors and EQs and shit like that. And it's brilliant. And you got some smaller stores, like let's say Enderton's, that started out really small, and now they got fucking big, right? And they're doing the same thing. So there's a new way to adapt to the new players that are coming up. So you were mentioning earlier that Fender has a program where they give you free guitar lessons, right? Yeah. So they have all these players that are showing you the basics. That's where we're going, but we still need that in-store experience as well. So if you're walking into, let's say, a music store, you still need to have that sales rep that you can bond with, and you talk with that person. You go, man, likes the same bands as me, likes the same guitars. So whenever this person is going to suggest something, that's my dude. Like, that's my sales rep. And if you have that online too, because I know Sweetwater, it's like I bought one thing one time, and every time now that I buy on Sweetwater, that's the same sales rep. And sometimes I get like these, hey, how did you like that pedal? Was it cool? I'm like, yeah, it was. Thank you. Yeah, it was like almost like buddy kind of thing. And I'm Canadian. I'm not American. You don't have to be loyal to me in any way because I'm not like a regular customer. I only buy like if I can't find it somewhere, I'm going to buy it from them. But yeah, that's the other tangent with this concept of music stores growing, is that the online presence is also very important. And sometimes you don't have time to have a sales rep explaining, okay, like, hey, I want to buy an EQ. Which one do I get? Okay, get this one. What does an EQ do, by the way? Sales rep is like, oh, God. If there's videos online that, you know, it's much easier for them. It's like, okay,
that stuff's funny, though. That stuff's super funny.
Yeah, it's like, do I need a compressor? Well, no, it depends. What are you doing? Those are hard questions for a sales rep to answer. It's like fuzz and distortion, delays, stuff like that. That's cool. But EQ and compression, holy shit, man. People are so bored. They're like, I don't get it. Okay, well, it's super simple. And then they get really technical, and you see the person like just like freaking out. Like, what does any of this mean?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, 100%. Yeah. It seems like we're not going to be able to get to our main topic. Doesn't matter. That's going to be a news-based episode. I'd like to. I think I'd like to close it with another with the last article that I found.
Okay, cool.
That we haven't even talked about. Just a second. Where is this? There you go. These are 3 of my most controversial guitar opinions. Written by a guy called Matt Dunn, who writes for Ultimate Guitar.
Okay.
Here are 3 hills I'm willing to die on, even though you're going to shred me in the comments. Okay, I'm up for the challenge. Let's go. Traditional Les Pauls are boring. What do you say?
My opinion?
Yeah.
I love them, but they are boring.
Yes. What do you say? I've said the same thing in much less direct or harsh ways in the past. I recently wrote an article about getting my first proper Les Paul and then abruptly listing it for sale right after. I know that Les Pauls are iconic, and I know that Gibson is iconic, so there's no need to defend that. But I just think a standard dual humbucker Les Paul is so boring for the price you're going to pay. I agree. They're very, very expensive for what they are. Yep. And I'm trying to avoid buying anything that has like an iconic brand on top. That's why I recently bought like an ES335 type guitar, but I bought a Greco because the quality was just way better than everything that I found these days from Epiphone or Gibson. A lot of humbuckers sound muddy and just get lost in the mix. They're missing top-end sparkle, and the sounds don't justify the prices. Not to mention Les Pauls are heavy and fragile. I've already had several headstock breaks on the Gibsons I own. They're just not something I can get on with. But remember, it's only my opinion. It's not a fact. Well, he has a point. There are so many alternatives out there that I think he has a point. This next one, is even better. And it says, so many of you care more about pedal brand name than sound. And I think he has a point with that. I'm going to read a little bit out of this. I see many people out there with these massive spaceship pedal boards loaded with Walrus, Strymon, and Chase Bliss, and other trendy names. I have no issues with these brands, and I myself enjoy many of their pedals. But so many people in this community build boards out of the same few brands with the same few trendy modulation and delay pedals. Half of the time, I don't even see you guys actually using the gear. There's so many amazing pedal builders out there, and most of you are more concerned with how many likes your pedal board gets on Instagram than you are with how it sounds. I do know that many of you make truly amazing creative music with the powerful Chase Bliss or Earthquaker pedals out there, but some of you are just shopping for likes and collector's cred, and it drives me nuts. And I'm just gonna say this: the massive trend comes from the P&W scene, and I just think that's a ridiculous thing. What is the P&W scene?
Praise and worship.
Oh shit! Yeah, 100%. Yeah, exactly. It's true. Some of these guys have just massive pedal boards with. It sort of is religious shoegaze.
Here, I'm just gonna take a second.
Yes,
I'm gonna show you my pedal board that I just put together, and I just went with what I liked as opposed to what is trendy, because I don't give a shit too much about trendy. So I'll just show you quickly.
Yes.
So this is what I have.
Yeah.
So basically, like, nothing too trendy on here. I think probably like the most fancy thing that I have on here would probably be like the Fairfield circuitry pedal.
Yeah.
That's right here. And maybe the Fernweh. And the rest of it is like pretty common stuff. Like I have the DOD Carcosa as my fuzz. I didn't want like anything too fancy. That might change in a few weeks or a few months or whatever, but it's like, yeah, I don't have any Chase Bliss or Strymon or stuff like that, and I don't post much like when it comes to Instagram. So there's some people out there that they love this stuff for real. I'm less interested in that. I kind of like the pedals that you get that you're like, what the fuck is this? And you plug into it and it sounds great, and seems like no one really knows about those pedals. That's a shit I really like too. So
yeah, I'm gonna show you mine just to complete this. I recently started to love small boards, and even better, I love boards who are like power bank driven. So I don't need to, I don't need external stuff. I can just go somewhere on a session, flip a switch, and I'm ready to go for a couple of hours. So just a second. Here's mine.
Yeah. Oh wow, that's small and compact.
Yeah. So essentially, that's a pedal train Nano Plus with a mini wah, a silver machine, a double cabron, and my specular tempus. That's a delay and reverb, and on the back, it's like very, very tidy. This is a Harley Benton power bank with like I think it's like 10,000 MAs. So it's like,
oh wow, okay,
that's gonna hold for a long time. And then I just have an isolator, a Gig Rig isolator, and a Mr. Universe, which is if I wanted to add something that needs more than 150 milliamps. But essentially, that's like it comes with this small bag, and I can go everywhere, and I have like a shit ton of sounds available, and I don't even need to worry about, where do I plug this thing in? So
yeah,
Yeah,
and you're not at the mercy of really bad electricity coming out of the walls either.
No, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly. It's super quiet. It's amazing how quiet this thing is. Unbelievable.
yeah. It's smaller, and I'm probably going to be doing that myself. Like I have a small rock board, and I'm probably going to be doing something really similar to that too, where I'm just going to put like maybe like maximum 4 pedals on there. And I think the fun thing about it, and the reason why I'm thinking about making a small board, is because you kind of inspired that with the mention of you having like small boards for gigs, and I was like, what would I bring to a small gig? Like, what would be like maybe 4 or 5 pedals I would put on there? Something super simple, no switching or relays or anything, just like straight up, like you plug one pedal into the other. And I'm still working on that. And at some point, I might be looking into something like what you have there, something that you don't have to plug into the wall. Yours is the Harley Benton. Is there like more than one model, or is just the one model that they make?
They have 2, but I wanted so they have a new version, but the new version is slightly deeper and a little bit thicker, I think.
Okay.
Which would have meant that it doesn't fit under that like sleek Nano Plus. But the other one, the MK1 version, if you want so, is like thin and a little bit longer, and it fits there right away. And the cool thing is, you can use this while it's charging as well. So it's not like you have to, switch it off, charge it, and then so essentially, if it's empty, you can connect it. It's a micro USB plug. You can connect it, and you can still power your pedals. This is okay. Early Coldplay is great music. I'll end with my guitar music focused opinion. I love the first 4 Coldplay albums. I don't care what you say. Those are genuinely fantastic Indian alt rock records, and Johnny Buckland is such a good guitarist, like The Edge or Dave Kuning. He does so much with so little. The solo on Fix You is one of the most powerful guitar breaks ever, and it's like 3 notes. The atmospheric playing on Talk, Live in Technicolor, Death and All His Friends, and Yellow is brilliant. I could go on and on, but I won't. But Coldplay is good. I don't know. Depends on if you like Coldplay, I guess.
Yeah. He's probably making the contrast between like Coldplay as more of an indie rock band versus Coldplay the pop band. And I could see, like, I really don't care for listening to like whatever radio and then I go, is that Coldplay? Like, I only recognize them from this, and it's Coldplay. And then if I put on an old song, my kids are like, that's the same band. Yeah, I like the old stuff better. They like the new stuff better, but it's a matter of opinion, I guess.
Yeah, and I think it's the same thing with what's his name? Gosh, I forgot what his name was. But there are a couple of artists who started sort of with like an indie vibe, and they kind of evolved, and they kind of, some of them were influenced by what some of the musical trends were doing, you know, and what some of the music they made at a later point was stuff that was happening at the time, and for some it wasn't, and I think with Coldplay, it was sort of a natural, evolving into something that is audience to just reach out to more people. So I guess that's, you could make the same example for so many other bands as well. Shit, you could do it for U2 as well. U2 used to the music of U2 was different in the beginning as well.
Yep. Back in the early 2000s, there was that one band, Sugar Ray. I don't know if you remember those guys, but they used to be like more hard rock kind of thing, like almost going into like the Korn territory kind of thing. And then all of a sudden, they went pop. The American band Lit, they were like punk rock. Now they're doing country. It's like the singer from Stained is doing country. I was like, what the fuck is going on, man? It's like there's all these bands that were like more rock and punk, and now they've all transitioned to other stuff. And I mean, if it works for you, there's nothing wrong with it. It's just that sometimes you're going to lose people along the way, and that's fine. Coldplay, I don't see why that would be controversial, because how many people think like controversy, Coldplay? Yeah, those two work together. It's not very controversial. I agree with the two previous, like those, like if you start a debate on those things, a lot of people are going to have opinions. Coldplay, like we both reacted the same way, kind of like, yeah, I guess.
It's like one of the bands that I think is very underrated and has always been listenable to and enjoyable for people who listen to radio stuff, in quote, Three Doors Down.
Yeah.
You know, that's one of the bands that I actually saw them live when they were touring for their first album, and it was absolutely amazing. They were like live, they were an absolute force, and especially the drummer is a fucking berserk, man. This guy, if you go to YouTube and type in Three Doors Down drummer live, you're going to see drum cams, and you're going to see someone beating the shit, the literal shit out of his drum kit in a way that I've never seen before. And that's driving this band live. It gives the whole thing a complete different, even to a like poppier, you know, more radio friendly song. It gives the whole thing a in-your-face vibe.
Yeah.
It's amazing. So, So everybody who's listening or watching this, go to YouTube, type in Three Doors Down drummer live, and just enjoy somebody beating the crap out of his drum kit. Awesome. I think we made it through this episode by just going through a couple of news-related things and the connected controversies and whatnot.
Yeah. Coldplay controversy. Yeah.
Yeah, Coldplay.
Gotta make that into a shirt.
Yeah. I'm gonna make a shirt that says, "Let's get rid of cheap guitars."
Yeah.
Fucker. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah. We keep talking about making shirts. We're gonna have to make them. We're gonna have
at some point we're gonna have to make them 100%. Little bit of housekeeping. This is the last call out in the giveaway that we did 3 week's ago, 4 weeks ago. So please, David Sellers, if you hear this, reach out to us, toneloungepc@gmail.com, or leave a comment, or, you know, connect through the channel in whatever way. And send us your address so we can send you the pedal.
And I'll put another post on the community post so that David can see it. And after the third time, if we can't reach out to David, we're going to have to draw another name at some point.
Yeah. Enjoy the rest of the week and the weekend. And we are going to talk to you next week. Same time, same place, Thursday, 10 a.m. And until then, see ya.
Cheers.
Cheers.